Joseph was here first. I was making my coffee. I'm like, sorry. I needed to get my caffeine. So what? I can't spell things. I'm looking at all these. I wrote the workout and I was like, my head, can't spell anything. Okay, however you're feeling this morning, whether it's tired or just your legs want to fall off. Either way, unfortunately, we are squatting. So there's a tiny detail. So sorry, Joseph. Um, So just scale as you need, and you can bias the upper body stuff if you want to. Okay, so here's the deal. I'll post the workout in a second. And essentially, we have kind of, like I said, adding, the theme has sort of been building on what you've already been doing. So that's adding load, of course, if possible. I know not everyone has that option. Um, while form holds, and or adding complexity. So that might just be neuromuscular complexity. So if you always hold the weight in one hand, you hold it in the other. You're making your brain work a little harder. Okay, so that's another way to approach this. So 3 times through 8 split squats per leg, changing the loading hand, which is what I just talked about. So if I always load the opposite hand of my standing leg, which is true, not always, but often, I will go ahead and put the weight on my standing leg, standing hand. It's just a little bit different. You might not feel any difference at all, and you can even just add 2 dumbbells instead, right? That's adding load. So you can approach that a couple different ways, or two weights. If you're adding 2 weights, please make them as close in weight as possible. Okay. Um, 5 push-ups into a down dog, just a little bit pulling from, Joseph's handbook here, but a little bit of just a push-up into a bit of a stretch. In between those things, followed by, right? So that's kind of part one. Part two is going to be 3 sets of 16 dead bugs. We can make this more complicated in a second if you want to. 10 half kneeling overhead press. That's per side. And then 10 Romanian deadlifts. And if you have 2 weights, that'd be great. If not, one big one or one bigger one. It's going to be your better option. Um, this is resting 1 minute after you complete the deadlifts. And that 1 minute rest is approximate. Okay, so that's just really, we're trying to make sure we're not zooming through all this. Um, for those present, any questions? Okay, as we go through them and all that good stuff, we'll make sure that there are no question marks left by the time we start each section of today's warm-up or workout, excuse me. Let's have you guys start with your usual piece, right? Your cat cows and bird dogs, all that good stuff. Yoga mat. I just folded it in half here. Um, I deadlifted for the first time in like 6 months yesterday. I'm just, why? I'm fine. I'm just sore, which is good, but it feels rude. It feels rude. Well, I've obviously had a couple weeks off since I've been biking a bit. But a couple weeks off, kind of. I have very light programming. And the last few weeks have been busy with work, which is good, but it means I haven't had time to do anything. So this week I intentionally scheduled time to work out, but it's like my first full week of, I would say 50-50 cycling and weightlifting. And it feels a bit insulting, but I'll feel better once I do it. I know, but just right, heavy deadlifts and biking. Not even that heavy, but heavier. Um, okay, so our alternating word duck. Extend the foot, lift it up, lift the arms. Did anyone catch Layla Wilcox when she biked through San Francisco? She came through yesterday. She's doing her around the world attempt. Or say, she's trying to beat the world record, I mean. You have your 10 bird dogs. Yeah, my counting is a bit questionable, so I trust you to count for yourselves.
Okay, I think I've done 10.
You even sound sleepy. That's okay. I just feel like you just want to like roll onto your couch and just back to sleep. Um, let's go ahead and get a bit of upper back or thoracic rotation. Same thing, right? We'll do this a couple different ways. We can do a full on thread the needle, which is where we lift our hands up and we rotate this way. We come through this, this gap here. Option two, if you want a shorter version, maybe a little less intense, maybe, right? Or less rotationally biased. You just kind of bend the elbow and look up. So there's still rotation. Bending the elbow makes it more challenging, and therefore the rotation is much less intense. So as I rotate back, I'm only really getting to my elbow to elbow. I'm not really getting as much. Either way, whether you're bending the elbow or straightening the arm, let's see 3 to 5 reps per side, depending on how long each one takes you. It's okay to be slow on this. And 3 to 5 per direction. You can mix and match. Okay. Next thing we're gonna do are inchworms. I'll do my best to stay in frame for this. But essentially, you're gonna walk out into a plank shape from a standing position. You're gonna lay down and you're gonna get back up. Looks like this. So I know you can't see my body. Here. So you're gonna touch your toes, 4 in front of you. You're gonna walk out to your plank shape. You can do a full-on push-up, or you can do an assisted push-up. And then you're gonna walk your hands back toward your feet, bending your knees as you need to, standing back up. That's one. We'll do a total of 5. Oh, okay. So let's go ahead and finish off, I would say more of a physical check-in. The warm-up is something that obviously is compounding your intensity here. So we're at least checking in on our body in general. I call these moon the sky. So we're gonna start in a standing position. Okay, you need to get this up there. And you know you can't see my feet, but they're about shoulder width. I'm squatting here. My hands are above my head. I'm just gonna squat down. Let's open this out. I'm gonna squat down, bring your toes and heels down. It's not very low. I know it's stiff. Go ahead, put your fingers on the tops of your toes of the floor in front of you. Gently raise your hips. Squat back down. Hands back over your head or forward. Stand back up. So yeah, there we go. That's great. And look, this is not about how deep you squat. It's not about how your hands go. It's how do your hips feel? How does your knee feel? How does your back feel? And if it's stiff or whatever it is, that's fine. When you're putting your head above your head, Think little less mini cactus. Think like more like YMCA if you need to go YMCA. So I'd rather see the elbows straight. I don't care if your elbows or if you're making an I shape or a Y shape. Yeah. And being forward here is fine as long as you're not falling over, right? It's fine. Yeah, I'm doing 5. Okay, so we did discuss these split squats, right? You can lift the back leg for Bulgarian. That's your cup of tea. Um, but really the focus is going to be changing where we load where we are loading this or how much. So instead of, let's see if I can get myself here. So instead of 1 at a time, I typically do this. Standing leg, opposite arm, right? To make it more complex for me today, I might go ahead and, whoop, already. Change where I load this. Now, this is a little less balanced for me. It is doable. It's not impossible. But as I do my split squat now, I am thinking way harder. That's fine. It's not bad. It's just, don't really, we're just adding complexity. We want to add 2 dumbbells. We can just do that. So we'll just straddle the working leg. But let's see, 8 reps per leg. If you need to start a little lighter and you have the option, great. If you're doing the opposite hand, you can stick the opposite hand out for some balance. Okay. So this is kind of, we're sneaking into round 1. I watch things I'm working out. That's a little insulting. There you go. So you can add complexity by switching the loading hand, of course, adding weight, as well as lifting the back leg for anyone interested in doing a Bulgarian split squat. You can stand all the way up too, Joseph, if you'd like to. Yeah, there you go. So think like it's not as much a deadlift as a split squat. So it's one of those you can imagine like sitting down on that right side versus um, sitting back is okay, but we still want to sit down. Once you have your 8 reps per leg, the next thing we're going to do is our push-ups into a down dog, right? And that's just, again, a bit of a stretch thing. The down dog's a pike, which is also another name for this. Essentially, you're going to do your push-up, right? Your push-up assisted into whatever way you need, right? Push-up. And then the down dog is down dog. Little calf pump, if you like it, whatever you like, then we're going to come back. Okay. Let's do 5 of these. So part, strength, heart, stretch. And a knee bend on that as you bring your hips above your head is fine, right? So we're kind of, you can bias the head through the shoulders by bending the knees. You don't have to keep the legs straight as you send your hips back. Beautiful. So that's round 1. We're gonna do 2 more. These next 2 rounds can be done at your own pace. And if you can even add complexity within these sets, meaning you can start lifting leg for Bulgarian or whatever else. Want to keep it simple, just stick with a different loading pattern. So just stick to that opposite, moving the weight into the opposite hand. Okay, let's do it again. Yeah, if lifting your back leg on that split squat makes sense for you, lift it up. That's fine. And having it float back up is great. It's not a problem. I noticed that people who either have done a yoga practice of some kind, have a dance background, um, or kind of in that Pilates thing, like that genre of movement, the back leg tends to want to lift off the ground, which is fine. Um, yeah, that's better. Nice work. I'm doing 5 push-ups into a down dog. Take as much time as you want with your head between your shoulders. You can kind of lean into that stretch a little bit.
Three times through?
Correct. That's, yeah. So you just did 2, you have 1 more. I think I might have mentioned this before at some point. I mentioned adding weight. I realize not everyone has access to a gym and or not regularly if they do, right? Um, so if you're ever looking for additional equipment, but you don't necessarily want to buy anymore, or at least buy off Amazon or buy through a traditional retailer, go ahead and put it in Discord in the strength channel. Because I work at 3 gyms. Don't worry, all 3. I work at a lot of gyms. But I guarantee you, even within those 3, it's like the whole 6 degrees of the 6 degrees of separation between people. I guarantee you I know someone who knows someone who's getting rid of weights. Does that make sense? Like someone who's like either like gyms replacing weights, right? They're like, hey, these are beat up. They're fine. They just don't look as nice. Work just fine. And they're selling them for cheap. Um, or someone's like, I don't use this kettlebell. I hate it. And you're like, great, I'll take it, that kind of thing. So if you're interested, just ghost anybody. Yeah, I can't guarantee I'll find something, but I guarantee you one person in this community knows someone who knows someone, right? So I would say before you go buying stuff new, unless that's your whole thing, um, you're getting sick of the weights that you have, and you feel like you can up your game a little bit, or come join me at a gym. Reach out, and I'm there too. I wouldn't say it's free, but you have a lot more options. Um, Lovely. Chest all the way to the ground. Yeah. And a little warm up here, Risa, is great. That's fine. I want to bias the range of motion, right? Meaning we're laying down and we're getting up. As a recovering CrossFitter, I joke. I still appreciate it for what it is, but we did a lot of burpees for the sake of doing burpees. And I kind of gave it a lot of flack for that. But burpees have a place, time and a place. And that's getting up and getting down off the ground. And as soon as you start seeing your parents or people in your life get older and seeing them get through this process, how do you get off the ground? Whether it's because you've chosen to be there or maybe you haven't. So while it's not ideal, I'm getting your chest to the floor is not just me being a pain in the butt. Part of it is, if you were to lay down or fall down, could you get up from that fall? And hopefully the answer is yes. Um, okay, so the next piece, okay, 3 sets, maybe 4, right? I think we could probably sneak in 4, but we'll see in terms of what we have left for time. Okay, we have our dead bugs. These are pretty straightforward. We can add complexity in a couple of ways. So I'm going to start at the base model, if you will, basic dead bug. And then we'll slowly build, and you can pick any one of the things that I cover. Okay, it's pretty straightforward. You can, we're gonna be on our back, right? This is the one where you can kick out farther. I just don't have the room. So you don't have to. My head stays down here. My hands are above my shoulders, and my low back can be touching the ground or even gently pushed in. I say gently to the extreme, but it's not a big gap where you can see my ribs come up. This is the opposite of what I want. Okay. And then from here, we can just move the legs. All right. Right. We can move arms and legs, opposites. That helps. You can hold the opposite knee. Right. You can go same side. Right. This is a brain teaser, but it works. Right. So this is a way to add load without adding weight by pushing into the opposite leg. We don't want this knee coming forward. You can literally add weight. Carry your dumbbell, something, and then you get the elbow bent on this. That's okay to not have it straight. We're just adding weight to the front or the arms of the body. Trying to think. So those are kind of ways to add some ways to add complexity. If for whatever reason, like all those are super easy, right? Which it can be quite hard, but we can always go into like any of our tucks or right, kind of our baby gymnastics. Okay, so any of starting from laying down and just moving one part of the body versus two opposites or diagonal, right hand, left foot, any of those apply. 16 total. That's going to be, you know, you can alternate, or if you're doing same sided, same arm, same leg, that's where I'd say do 8 on one side and do 8 on the other. Right? Because when you're doing that same side, so when you're doing this version where you're here switching sides, sort of gets cumbersome. So say 8 on one side, right? And then 8 on the other, right? So if we're doing same sided, we're doing 16 total dead bugs. If you're low back, and I obviously can't, I'm not in person, so I can't see this. But imagine someone that has you have a towel under your low back, and someone tried to tug on that towel, it shouldn't move. Right? That's kind of the general idea. Right? Or if your rib cage is popping up, you feel like your low back is kicking in and your hip flexors are kicking in, just shorten your range of motion on both ends. Right? It's not need fast. In fact, if you're doing these well, they can be plenty hard. So once you have your 16 total reps, we have our half kneeling overhead presses. So these we've done before. We'll just more review these in movement. Half kneeling is just taking a knee, right? We can do whatever you want with back foot, doesn't matter. The overhead press part is where we have our dumbbell or kettlebell on the shoulder. The kettlebell is going to be more that, this position here. Then keeping your rib cage down, okay, pressing up, 10 per side. I happen to have, just like we've done before, I happen to have whatever knees in front. I have my ops hand loaded. That's fine for today. So we're not going to change that loading pattern this morning anyway. All right, so how much is that little yellow guy for you? What weight? I just forget. You told me.
It's 5 pounds. I was debating doing 5 pounds or 8 pounds.
I would try 8. And if you need to just do less than 10, do less than 10. Right? I'd rather you've been really consistent. I'd rather you be like, hey, I only have 2 options, 5 and 8. And I'd rather be like, I want to try 8. And if you get to like 6 reps, you're like,
Oh,
okay, maybe you stop at 6. It's one of those, I'd rather you try the newer weight,
okay.
get decision and be like, you know what? 10's too many, but maybe I can eke out 8, whatever. like I said, you don't have the selection where you're like, oh, I'll go with 7.5, thank you. You don't have the option to go in between things. So I'd rather you try a new weight if you're comfortable with the movement and just see how many reps you can get into that, let's say 10, for example.
Okay.
And then we can kind of revisit.
Well, and then I was going to post that I'm looking for 10 pound. So,
Okay. It's in the ether. Well, also, I'll check out, see if any of the gyms are getting rid of 10s or whatever. But if you post it in Discord, I'm sure someone's like, I have an extra pair.
okay.
Um, okay, so the next is our Romanian deadlifts. This is where we can carry two weights, so two lighter weights, or maybe two heavier weights. And this is where we're taking this from a standing position. We're closing, like I use the analogy, closing a car door. So I'm gonna have both weights in hand. In this case, they're both light. So I'm pretty okay with that. My hips go back. And then once my hips stop, right? I stop. I don't continue moving down necessarily. I'm only doing 10 Romanian deadlifts. A very high butt, like high glute, high hamstring. Yeah. I don't know if I'm sore or weak. I think I'm just sore, but that was enough. I deadlifted yesterday, which is why this is feeling a bit repetitive. If you have two different weights, are those two different weights, Joseph, or the same?
They're the same. They're just
Oh,
different
great. They're just different brands. That's fine. I was gonna say if they're different, you can just switch hands. Good. Huh. Good. So this second section, right? So the dead bugs, half kneeling overhead press, and Romanian deadlifts. While they're leggy, they're less squat based. So we're kind of mixing and matching today. The dead bug is just a pure core piece, pelvic floor, body thing, right? Torso. The half kneeling overhead press, again, predominantly overhead will feel like it, but if you're stiff in the hips, that half kneeling is a challenging position, or it's a stretch, it's a sneaky little stretch. And the Romanian deadlifts are a nice, just kind of, I would say, hamstring and butt focused piece. And you can load that as much as you are comfortable. So this is one where having two heavier kettlebells, or one, if you have one bigger one, like 53 or something like that, you can carry one between your feet, between your hands. So let's go ahead. That's set one. We're going to do another two more sets, resting about a minute. And I've been talking about 30 seconds here. Say about a minute. So when you feel ready, and this is like an internal clock on this, that 1 minute rest is just implying I want you to rest after each round, just a little. Okay, before we start over again. And I'm here to answer any questions you might have during the following movements. Good. In terms of your breathing pattern here, now that we have the movement, breathing in as you extend the feet and arms. Exhale as you bring the knees and hands in. I'd rather you breathe differently instead of breath holding, though. Okay, I want you breathing regardless. I will say in the meantime, Marisa, you can put 2 bags, 5-pound bags of flour into a bag and you have 10 pounds. Now, is that easy to press overhead? Not necessarily, but you can absolutely bicep curl it and deadlift it. Just say it's a lot cheaper than a dumbbell. Not exactly the right weight, not the right size or shape. Um, but you can be creative with how you make your weights. So by holding two weights here, right? And in theory, if you have the option to add weight, right? Let's say you started at 25 pounds and you can add to 30 and 40 and whatever, right? Or progressively load across your three sets. The shoulders have to work a little more. They have to stabilize a little harder. When you carry one object, it's a little easier when your hands are together, whether you're getting a dumbbell or a kettlebell. If you carry two objects, the shoulders have to work harder to support the weights in hand. So while it's not necessarily complex from a neurological perspective, right? Your brain, um, it does force a shoulders independently to support the weight you're carrying. It's like you're putting your groceries and picking up, you're putting on your groceries and picking them up a lot. It's kind of what you're doing. You're very cute, petite groceries. Um, Beautiful. So feel rests as long as you feel like you need to. Both, I know you're kind of both on track to start or starting or to start round three. Um, we'll regroup after this. There's only three sets programmed. You might do four, depending on what we want to do. Nice and steady recess. So speed is not necessarily the point of the dead bugs. Control is. Oh, there you go. In fact, if that's feeling really easy, go ahead and maybe grab that 8 for the overhead piece. Yeah, try it. If you hate it, you could always just grab that 5 again. We're just basically adding weight to your arms, essentially. We're doing this. Nice. Nice work. When you're at half kneeling press, just squeeze your butt on that bottom leg. We're just opening up one hip. We're kind of sneaking in hip extension, right? Opening up your hip, obviously on both sides. So when you switch hands, you switch legs too. I didn't say it before. There. So bracing the top of the lift, breathing in as you reach your hips back, and then exhaling or breathing out as you stand up. This is not necessarily about touching the ground, but if you can, that's fine. More about biasing the upper half of the leg, meaning hamstrings, butt, all that good stuff. The more knee bend you get in this lift, the more, I would say, whole leg, quad, hamstring. Nice. Resting as needed here. So that was 3 rounds. Are you guys feel like do you feel from a fatigue perspective or level of energy, do you feel like you do a fourth? Yeah. Okay, let's do 4. I'll make sure it reflects in the programming when this posts. Yeah. I think it's implied, but I know we're adding complexity, but if you need to reduce complexity, that's always okay too. Sometimes you focus on one thing, adding complexity or load to one thing, and we don't change another movement. There's a couplet, maybe you only can add complexity in one. Good. In this case, just breathing consistently, right, throughout the dead bug. The specifics of how or doing it right. I really just not hold your breath. Yeah. Nice job. Good. Final set of deadlifts. Right. So this is an option. This is not a requirement for today's programming, but I figure we have the time and, you know, you guys are moving pretty well. So this is a little kind of, I would say, finisher. So I think we like to call it in the industry. Basically just a little bit of, we're just sort of tacking on a little extra work. This is not necessarily meant to raise your heart rate today. It's actually like a glute bridge complex. Not a huge difference here than we've done before, but we're going to combine a single leg, so both sides, right? 8 reps per leg, in addition to a two-footed glute bridge. So for example, one round, we can do up to 3 of these, is 8 single leg glute bridges. So if that means you need to keep that foot down, right? So meaning, right, you're doing more of that B stance, that's fine, okay? If you're like, you know what, I got it, coach, thanks, right? We can fully lift. I'm not doing a particularly good job right now because I'm stiff, but here we are, okay? 8 per side. I'll do 8 on my other side, right? Do whatever you want with the hands, right? And then directly after that, we do 10, right? So this is the easier of the 3. Of course it is. But after doing 16 total, your butt's like, oh, that's a little cheeky. But it's not super intense. It's just a little bit challenging. At least that's how I felt when I did it. So let's try at least one round. 8 single leg. You can lift the foot completely or just stagger the feet. So kind of, we call it split stance or B stance. If that single leg is too aggressive. If you're thinking about it, get a butt cramp, please pause. There you go. 8 on one leg, followed by 8 on the other. We need to reduce that to 5 reps. You can make it 5 each instead of 8, depending on what you can do here. You're gonna switch. And it's okay to notice when you switch if your hips have a distinctly different ability to open, meaning it's harder. If it is, just stop. Don't push past that resistance. Just recognize it. Directly after your 8th rep on your second leg, which you're both on, you're doing 10 regular glute bridges. Good. We'll rest, again, about a minute. You can just rest laying down, by the way, if you want. If you're doing this, on your own or, and in a setting where you have a clock or a timer, you can set approximately a minute. The minute rest is really just a guideline to take a break. You can rest a little longer or a little shorter when we're doing this. So it's not critical that you rest exactly a minute in this particular case. And then ideally, again, we kind of tag this on because we could, ideally doing 3 sets of this. If you want to spend the remaining, 10 minutes rolling out instead, that's also fine. Just depends on how intense you went on the first 2 portions of today's workout. Nice. The hip is lifting because you're squeezing your butt. That's kind of the mechanism we're using to lift the hips. So more of a butt squeeze and a leg drive down. Nice job. Again, just making sure you're breathing consistently through your movements. I'm not concerned about specifics. Just don't hold your breath. And if you are, just take a break. Like I said, the rest between sets is kind of self-selected to some degree. If you know for a fact that you struggle with resting enough, set a timer. If you're someone who rests too much, I would say unlikely, but go ahead and same thing. Kind of set yourself a time and then you can always adjust to match your fatigue. So full transparency, I definitely stole this little finisher from someone I work with. I was like, she's always coming up with something interesting. And I tried it and I was like, oh, this is, I think it's everything I expected it to be, but I don't know. I like it. Nice work. Once you completed your 3rd and final set of this little glute bridge melody, you can absolutely grab your foam roller, or I would say mobility tool of choice. Or if you're like, hey, in a room with nothing, we can always go back to those 1990s. So we've done them before. So these guys, right? So a good kind of cool down and or just you're just assessing what's happening. So you can do this instead. So foam rolling or anything specific is great, but you're looking for a general, say lower body piece. This is not a bad one. And when you're off to the side, Arisa, when you're off to the side, we're not trying to keep both hips down. So if I try and keep both hips down, this knee pops up. I kind of feel a pinch here. We're really just leaning into like fully. So I'm very much on my right side. There's a gap under my left butt cheek. Right. So I don't need to be like trying to, when I switch, I can sit back. Right. Again, a gap under that opposite butt cheek. We're not looking to try and sit on both sit bones. Yeah. And it's okay to feel a stretch on the top and the bottom hip, but that stretch should be gentle. I don't need this to feel like super intense. That's not the goal. Trying to think to add anything else. How about this? Let's finish off today's session with something you're looking forward to. Doesn't have to be big. Be your second cup of coffee. I'll start. I'm looking forward to, I had a busy, busy day yesterday. Good busy, but like I was in bed by 7:30, busy under my covers. So I am looking forward to a lighter client-based day, a little more space to take care of actual stuff, and do my bike workout and, just a little more breathing room for things. So I'm looking forward to a light work day, relatively speaking. So the rest of the week's pretty busy. So a break after a very long day yesterday. Arisa, how about yourself?
Oh, yes, I'm looking forward to that cup of coffee.
Like,
And
as in the first cup?
yes.
Oh, if you're a few minutes late, I may say this with a grain of salt. If you're like a couple minutes late because you're pouring or making your coffee, okay. You know that like
But
plus or
fully
minus?
accept.
Well, yeah, even Joseph's okay with it. Come on. The most punctual person I know. So, yes, if you are brewing your coffee, by all means, or even what I'll do is sometimes I'll just log on and like at least have my square there. So, like, it's a bit like showing up to class and putting your books down, be like, but I have to go to my locker. But look, my books are here. So technically showed up, that kind of thing. So if it helps to like have you like boop, log into Zoom, mute, camera off scenario, and then while your coffee's brewing, fine. I mean, if you're 10 minutes late, that's just go back to bed. It's fine.
Thank you.
um, last but very not least, Elizabeth.
We're going to Virginia Beach this weekend because one of my college friends, his family has a family get together with like friends and family, and we
That's
now have
amazing.
the invite. And it's always a jam packed weekend. They have scheduling for the entire 3 days, from play horse dressage to glamping to pizza making, and it's literally just activity to activity for like 72 hours.
That sounds like that normally I would say that sounds like a lot, but it sounds like a lot of fun.
It is, and it's always like, okay, I guess this is what we're doing now. Like 2 years ago when we went, there was a there's it's like everyone dressed up, and then everyone has like a script that we read from, and it's like a play almost. So
Okay.
that's that.
Holly texted me there's going to be a friendship making section.
There's a friendship making section. Bracelets.
Oh, I love friendship bracelets.
Yeah.
I haven't made a friendship bracelet since like summer camp, but a tedious task repeated, me.
I've never had to make one because I have no friends.
Next time Meg is in town, we should do a friendship bracelet making party.
Yes, yes. And
Oh my
Joseph,
gosh. I
you
can't
are
even.
cordially invited to this friendship making bracelet session next time Meg is in town. Even if you're just staring at us like, why the F are we doing this? Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah.
You are invited. You now have friends. Speaking of friends, I socialized this weekend. That was weird. Like, I like didn't work out once. Sorry, Meg. I like socialized for real. Like went out and had drinks and stuff with people. And
Did you feel as tired as though you had worked out all weekend?
no, because I'm not Nikki. Was like, I'm so hungover. And I'm like, oh, I'm a little tired. I'm all right.
I know. I saw him at the pool and I was kind of hungover and I was like, oh, yay, someone's more hungover than me. This is great.
Nikki will look at a beer and he's like, oh, I'm already hungover. It's like, wow, that hits hard. No, we did drink, but we did like we spread it out across the day. It wasn't like we did a lot of drinking, but it was like it was across a very healthy amount of time. No, I wasn't nearly as hungover as I expected to be, but Sunday was like talking to us like, how do I put my workouts in this week? It's like my schedule's getting busier, so I'm need to intentionally schedule it. So I was like, instead of working out today, I'm going to make sure I work out this week. So now I'm working out this week. But yeah, socializing. It's weird.
Yay.
Yeah, I
Friend.
know. But now I'm like, I want to bike again, which it's a sick little relationship I have with this thing. Um, Friends, we have a few minutes. You're welcome to stay on and chat. If you want 4 extra minutes on your day, be free, basically.
Go running. Yes.
Thank you,
Bye.
Kirstie.
Bye.
See you,
Take
Lisa.
care.
Thank you. See ya. Bye.